Hello everyone, Italian Magic here, and as you can see from this section over on the side here, I just finished my Oath of the Gatewatch booster box unboxing video, so if you haven't watched that yet, please go watch that. It's up on the channel, and the booster box was very good. As you can see, there was a foil Oath of Jace. That's a little preview over here, so but the box was great. There were a lot of good, there were mythics and foils as you would expect in a box, and they were quite good, so go watch that. What I'm about to do though is open up this pack of Oath of the Gatewatch that I just took away from the camera here to do a draft pack 1 pick 1 video analysis. So I'm going to lay the cards out on the mat here, and then we'll talk about the first pick. I'll make a first pick out of this pack, and I will also talk a tiny bit about my initial impressions of the format, as well as those impressions based on the two pre-release sealed events that I played in, as I'm doing this video on set release, like retail release, and thus have not yet had a chance to draft the set. Alright, so there's an Eldrazi Displacer as our rare, and then this stuff. So this is the pack. We've got Mighty Leap, Consuming Sinkhole, Undo War Cleric, Kozilek Shrieker, which I like, I think, more than most people, or at least more than the limited resources review gave this card, I believe, a C minus. Did they give it a C minus? They give it somewhere in the C range, and while I don't think it's a B, so I don't necessarily disagree with their letter grade, some of their reasoning for it stuck out to me as indicative of certain biases or certain styles that the hosts have that I think, in my opinion, that Brian Wong, when he was the co-host on that show, didn't have. And that is that I think that there are times... Well, okay, let me back up for a second here. I think in Constructed, aggressive decks have a higher percentage chance of faltering often than mid-range or control decks, assuming we're talking about decks that are all built and tuned with an equal sort of eye to detail and skill level. But it's often the opposite in Limited, that control and mid-range, not so much mid-range, but control decks often falter more than aggressive decks, because often aggressive decks in Limited just need to present a solid curve out in order to, and then some removal spells, or a combat trick in order to push the final points of damage through. It's not about winning in a flashy way, it's about just outpacing your opponent, whereas a tightly constructed control deck in Standard, for example, can keep pace with decent aggressive draws by aggressive decks in that format, typically. My point being that I think I like aggressive decks in Limited more than the host of that show, and that's okay. I mean, they're good, very good players. Obviously, Scott Vargas is a Hall of Fame player, and I respect his opinion greatly. But his style preference, or his preferential mode of play, stylistically, I think is a little different than mine. That being said, I think some of the black devoid creatures are going to be very good in this limited format, or are very good in this limited format. And I really like this guy as a 3-mana 3/2 that can sort of push an aggressive game plan in the mid stages of the game, backed up by other devoid Eldrazi cards, creatures like Reaver Drone or Sky Scourer. Black obviously typically gets great removal, and here that is no different with things like Grasp of Darkness and Oblivion Strike and Tar Snare. Tar Snare isn't great, but just that black has plentiful removal, ranging from okay to great, and black can pair, I think, with black to void compare with blue to be a more controlling deck or with red to be a more aggressive deck. That said, I don't think I would necessarily first pick this guy out of this pack, but I do like Kozilek Shrieker, I think, more than some people do in this format thus far. Again, after my initial sealed impressions. And my aggressive decks in sealed that I played at the pre-releases weren't bombless. One of them had Endbringer, among other cards, splashing for Mina and Den Wildborn. So, I mean, I won't go into the full details here, but the point is, it wasn't like they were streamlined aggressive decks. They had some high-end bombs, or top-end curve topper bombs, but that being said, in the more aggressive of the two decks, the more streamlined aggressive one, this guy did impress me. I don't think I would first pick him here. Continue on, we have lead by example, wastes, which is an interesting point of contention. You know, how early do you pick wastes? Where do you pick wastes in this draft form? I don't think you first pick a wastes. Gravity Negator, Bonesaw, Scion Summoner, these are both very good commons. Spawnbinder Mage, Immolating Glare, that's a removal spell, good card. Reaver Drone, which I think you don't want to first pick, because if you are in sort of a black-based aggressive devoid deck, you'll know, and you can pick this card up later, even though it's an uncommon. It might even come around the table. But that being said, it's not one of the key cards that the deck hinges on, though it is nice to potentially get in some early damage if you are in a deck that wants to get in some damage early, then with flying and menace and whatnot, get through with more, finish off the opponent with either a pump spell like the red +3/+1 trample, or a burn spell, or just, you know, remove creatures with Oblivion Strike to keep attacking. Then we have Void Shatter, Eldrazi Displacer, and that's the pack. So I think let's get rid of what we wouldn't pick. I wouldn't pick Mighty Leap, Consuming Sinkhole, Undo War Cleric. Probably wouldn't pick the Shrieker, but I'm going to leave it in. I don't think I'd first pick the Waste. Wouldn't first pick the Bone Saw. I wouldn't first pick Spawnbinder Mage. And I don't think I would first pick Reaver Drone or Void Shatter. So that leaves us with 3 commons, an uncommon, and a rare. Yeah, you know, I don't love white based on my initial impressions of the format, but I don't know if that is, I mean, I don't think white is the worst color. I think green actually still is, even though it got a little better than it was in Battle for Zendikar. I mean, these are both great white cards. The ability to potentially get blockers out of the way, or protect your guys from removal, or reuse enters the battlefield abilities, or even, I guess there aren't really many leaves the battlefield abilities in this set. There's Thought Knot Seer, but you actually don't want to trigger that leaves the battlefield ability. That's good. It's really powerful. 2 mana removal. This is better in a controlling deck, but even in an aggressive deck, you are going to get attacked, and leaving up 2 mana isn't too big a deal, though you don't really want to be doing that when you're building out your board early in the game, unless you are more of a controlling deck. I mean, if you're a controlling deck, you might not be building out your board necessarily early in the game, unless you're playing, you know, defensive creatures like Ancient Crab, off of Protector, whatever, Fortified Rampart. These 3 commons are all really good. I think they're, I mean, I wouldn't say this is one of the best black commons, but like I said, I like this card better than I think some people do at the moment. You know, a 2/3 flyer with upside, certainly solid. This is sort of like a wingless but slightly tougher Eldrazi Sky Spawner, or another creature to compare this to is, I forget the name of it. Oh, Sandstep. Was it Sandstep Outcast? Card from Khans block, white card that created the one that either could come in slightly bigger or with a spirit, a fly. It was like a 2/1 that could either be a 3/2 or enter the battlefield with a 1/1 spirit flying token. I think it was Sandstep Outcast. Might be wrong about that, but you know, this is a 2/2 that enters with a 1/1 Scion that can sacrifice for mana. It can ramp you. It's 3/3 power worth of stats for 3 mana. One of the best green commons. That being said, I don't know. It's tough. I don't think green is so bad in this set that I would avoid first picking a green card. necessarily, though you do eventually get to one pack of battle, and although I think green has improved, and certainly if there is only one green drafter at the table, even if there are two, I think if there's one, you certainly can build a strong sort of just basic cards that affect the board limited deck with green. This is kind of a tough pick. It's tough because my current bias towards black being what I think the best color in the format, and that's just my early assessment, leads me to even to consider this as a first pick, which I think is wrong. I don't think this is as good as either of these, actually. And 2 mana instant removal, sure, it's conditional removal, but I don't think the condition is that hard to meet. And a very interesting rare. I think these are actually all better first picks than the Shrieker. I think I'm going to take out the commons. I think, although I said I'm not a huge fan of white in this format, I think white is slightly better than green, but it's worse than the other colors. It would still, my pick would still be between these cards, because I would like to play with this and see how it plays out. You know, it's obviously you have fewer chances of playing with any given rare and limited than a common or uncommon, but also just a 3/3. No, I mean it's a 3/3 for 3 with upside, but I don't think that's a first pick. I think it's Immolating Glare. I think my first pick here is going to be Immolating Glare, because we don't really get access to instant speed 2 mana removal these days, and even though like unconditional 2 mana instant speed removal, and even though this is conditional, it's like I said, even if you are the aggressor, at some point in a game of limited you will be attacked, and unless you are literally a deck that is tapping out to play permanents every single turn, you can probably find a window to keep up 2 mana, create a situation where it looks advantageous for an opponent to attack, or even if you're a little bit behind and your opponent is attacking, that obviously comes up in many games. If you're a parity, an opponent might play an evasive creature, a flyer, make a creature unable to block with like slip through space and attack with it. I just don't think the condition on this is too hard to meet, and since it often is basically just 2 mana destroy target creature, I think that's the first pick out of this pack. So again, I was looking, I had narrowed it down to this group. These were some of the other cards I was considering: Kozilek Shrieker, Gravity Negator, Scion Summoner, and Eldrazi Displacer. But I settled on Immolating Glare being my first pick from this booster pack. So hopefully this video was informative. I gave you guys some of my thoughts, early thoughts and early impressions on this limited format, but don't hesitate to let me know how you feel this limited format will shake out, or what your early impressions have been through pre-releases or maybe mock drafts or whatever. Please, or by the time this video is posted, maybe even your first real draft, please let me know in the comments below. I think I'm going to enjoy playing limited more with Oath of the Gatewatch than I did with Battle for Zendikar, and I didn't super love Battle for Zendikar limited. I didn't absolutely hate it, but it wasn't one of my favorite sets for limited in recent memory. So I think I'm going to like this one a bit more. I'm eager to hear what you guys have to say about it. So I look forward to those comments. And until next time, this is Metalian Magic signing out.